did you, I just want to make sure I'm getting my timeline or sequencing of events
Yeah.
correctly. Did you say that you started off as basically an amalgam of the three different positions, Catholic, Orthodox, and Protestant?
Well, by the time I
Or
graduated from high school, I would say that.
so you were adopting beliefs from basically all three. What were your parents, or what were they trying
Uh,
to raise you as?
well, my
Or
parents are Southern Baptist and Protestant, and I went to a Catholic high school for a portion of that as well, um, and that's pretty much that's my experience with all of
so,
them.
so just as part of your upbringing, you were exposed to the different types of
Mhm.
Christianity, which kind of influenced your beliefs. And
Yes.
okay, and so it sounds like from there you didn't really settle necessarily on one of them, but it did give you kind of a basic God belief, and then you started investigating. It sounded like deism for a
Well,
moment.
I would say that God belief was challenged, right? And I arrived at deism on my own because, like, I went through a skeptical phase, what you call a crisis of faith. Um, I never went, I guess, full blown atheism, but I did arrive at a deistic proposition, and then from there, uh, through studying other like mythological frameworks,
Mhm.
other essentially religions the best I could, and surveying those again, I arrived back at Christianity. So I guess we're uh, kind of trapped in some regards, but it was good.
Okay. So let me ask you about, since you seem to have settled on Christianity, and I do want to ask you some broader questions about
Yeah, sure.
theism as well, but what is your take on the Bible? And I guess the first part of that question should be, have you read the Bible? Have you read the whole thing? And then if you have, are you a biblical literalist? Kind of what's your view on?
So let me answer this one question really quick. Biblical literalist? No.
Okay.
The Bible is a collection of writings, and yes, I've at least read it through once. And from that, my memory is not always perfect, so I'm sure that you still know it better than I do, or many people do. Um, so at the end of the day, the Bible is a work that has a lot of narratives or meta narratives that I think are true. Now, it doesn't mean that the ark, as far as Noah's ark, is real. Like, that's absurd. It doesn't mean that evolution isn't real. Um, it doesn't mean that the Levitical law is appropriate. Um, so
So
yeah,
this is okay. Now that's interesting. I'm a little conflicted here because as an atheist, I want to clap and applaud and kind of
mhm.
give the the metaphorical thank God, since I don't believe in one. But the skeptic in me is compelled to ask, as you've identified as a Christian, if you don't believe in these stories from the Bible, what is your foundational belief that there was a Jesus Christ who, and maybe I should be asking you the question, do you believe that there was a literal Jesus Christ who was resurrected, or who walked on water, or did miraculous things?
Yeah. So I can't prove that Jesus did miracles. Like,
Okay.
I can't do that. I can't even prove that he rose from the dead. Now, what I think there's strong evidence for the existence of Jesus. Like, I understand the mythicist arguments. I understand some of Richard Carrier's arguments. Um, at the end of the day, there was either a character or several characters named Jesus between a time frame of 100 BC to 100 AD that this person was written about.
Hmm. So, okay. So, but as far as your beliefs about the resurrection, do you believe that that actually happened, or do you think that that part is just a story that was
I
meant
can't
to?
prove it. So I mean, I guess, what do you mean by belief?
Well, so there's things that I can't, like, I can't prove that there are actually aliens existing elsewhere in the universe, right? Because there's no direct evidence of that. But I do have a belief that there is, and the basis of my belief has to do with what I understand about evolution, the natural elements and the cosmos, the elements required for life, the vastness of it, the right distances of planets from stars and the probability of that happening on another world. In my mind, it seems highly probable based on what we do know that there would be aliens. So therefore I believe in aliens, but I have no evidence of aliens. So if someone were to ask me, hey, can you prove aliens exist? Of course not, because there's no evidence of aliens, but I still believe them. So I guess that's what I'm trying to get at. Like, do you have a belief in the resurrection of Christ despite the lack of evidence, or would you say that you're skeptical about that claim but still believe in the existence?
I said I can't prove it, and I have to be skeptical of that claim. Like, I cannot prove with any level of decent fidelity that Christ arose from the dead.
Okay. Would you describe yourself as a typical Christian?
Oh no, I'm the worst kind.
Well, okay, that's interesting. How do you mean?
I'm just because I do question it.
And I would say, by the way, I would strongly disagree with you, just because
it's a joke, though.
I know it's a joke, but the problem is, and I'm glad you clarified that it's a joke, but the problem is we get theists watching too, and we get Christians watching, and Muslims, and all kinds of people of other faiths, and sometimes they hear jokes like that they take seriously and take as a win, as though it makes sense. And so I'm always, just in case anybody was tempted to do that, I would say that you're one of the best Christians. One, the fact that you're employing skepticism, and two, that you seem to be caring about people, and I know that that's something that many Christians say that they are supposed to do. It's not something that I often observe most of them doing. And in your case, I have evidence that you do that with your podcast. So you are one of the best Christians. But with respect to your beliefs, you would consider yourself an atypical Christian?
Yeah, I would be very atypical.
Okay. And would that have to do with your lack of, not literacy, but biblical literalness relative to?
I mean, it's a combination of probably literalness and the fact that science, the invariableness of science, right, makes it very hard to say that someone can rise from the dead.
Yeah. And in addition to many of the other biblical.
Yes. Like right. many claims.
Okay. So then if the Bible is not to be taken literally, so to speak, why Christianity? I kind of put in the thumbnail as a title, why Christianity? So I'm slipping in the question at this point, but it seems to be relevant to me because it's difficult. I used to be a Christian, and I would say if someone came to me back when I was a Christian and told me what you just told me, I would be very confused, and I would be wondering what your basis is for even calling yourself a Christian if you're not believing in what the Bible says. So, like, why did you choose Christianity, or why did you decide, based on your investigation, that this was the religion that made the most sense relative to any of the other religious claims out there?
So maybe this is due to lack of historical record, right? Because I think I need to give that a very clear prop, because many of our myths from other eras are just kind of gone. Like we have echoes of them, and like Norse and the Edda. We have some Sumerian stuff that we've been able to translate, so on and so forth. And from that, there are perennial truths. Like, I think now they're mythological in nature, but it doesn't necessarily say that it's a science driven like truth. It's a, I would say more like maybe a human truth that comes from the Bible and its meta narratives.
We have our first super chat from Asexual Atheist for $4.99. Thanks for being here, Jim. How do you determine metaphor from what is real in the narrative?
I mean, end of the day, you can take it all as metaphor because you can classify it all as art.
How familiar, well, have you studied in depth any of the other major the two other monotheistic religions that are popular in our country, Judaism and Islam? Have you like read the Quran or researched any of the Torah or any of the Jewish or Islamic claims?
I haven't really gotten into the Torah as much, besides basic conversations. I think that it's interesting, even from the Jewish perspective. The Quran I'm familiar with from more of a political standpoint. And what I mean by that is the political history of the religion and its impact in the Southern Mediterranean. And you said other so I think those were the big two.
Yeah, well, those are
I'm exposed to them.
Those are probably the two, the other two in the monotheistic God of Abraham trifecta, so to speak.
Yeah.
And so given the fact that you've identified as Christian and you gave your reasons why, but I'm wondering if you've compared it to some of the other claims about this God.
Yeah, I mean, I've done some very loose Quran studies, not to the level of detail, because I haven't gotten to it yet.
Right.
Like for example, I've read most of the world's mythologies as of late. I did it again through Bernard Shaw's work. And then currently the Quran is on my bookshelf. Fun fact. So it's behind me. I just have to get through it. And I think there's plenty of time for that.
Okay. Is it possible that after getting through it, you would convert to Islam?
There's a possibility. I would never say never. Because oddly enough, when I say never, things happen in the way that I said they would never happen.
Right. Based on your historical knowledge of Islam, do you think that would be a likelihood in the future, or?
Yeah, from the historical standpoint, I'd be very cautious of it. I don't know it well enough to sit there and really kind of nail down and stuff. My initial impressions, though, are not that good, but I'm exploring it.
Okay, fair enough. And this may or may not be the last Christian specific question I ask you. It kind of depends on how the conversation evolves from here. But on a scale from 1 to 10, where 1 is zero confidence at all and 10 is absolutely sure that this is true, how certain are you that Jesus Christ died for your sins?
Okay. So from a literal standpoint, I that would be like a 1, like a 0 almost, because I don't know. Again, I can't prove the miracles or anything like that. Now, there's a interesting truth there from a metaphorical perspective, at least from the story perspective, that a psychotechnology of grace came from that idea.
I'm sorry, say it again.
The psychotechnology of grace came from that idea. And what I mean by psychotechnology is a mind tool, essentially.
It came from the idea of
grace.
Okay.
Which is attributed with Jesus Christ dying on the cross, which I think is an important technology to help us at least navigate through the world.
Okay. So moving out to, I guess, general theism then, because this is probably the biggest area. It's difficult for me to find anything to really disagree with you about, with everything that you've said about your beliefs specific to Christianity. which
Yeah,
is
sure.
rare. That's certainly not what I was expecting at all. I was expecting, you to put up a little bit more of a fight, but I guess, but I guess we have more common ground with respect
I'm
to.
sorry.
No, but you know what? The name of the episode is Common Ground. And so this is just another piece of evidence that we cannot and should not and ought not judge people based on the label that they choose for themselves, because, it's like judging a book by their cover. You call yourself a Christian, I call myself an atheist, but so far we've agreed on just about everything, And
Yeah.
so if I were to not have this conversation with you and just judge you based on your label, I would have a completely different impression about you and you about me, possibly, So